My entire marriage was a part of an elaborate scheme and I was the only person that didn't know. My husband's best friend just broke up with his girlfriend, and while he was out drinking to cheer his best friend off, the ex-info dumped me and I don't know how to process this at all. When I first met my husband in college, I was dating another guy, Tom. Tom was a transplant to the area and had study buddies but few friends, so when he became really good friends with these guys he met at the college bar, I was happy for him. But as Tom grew closer to his new friends, he grew more and more distant from me. Around this time was when I met my future husband at a party that Tom's new friends threw, and we bonded over how my husband was taking the same elective classes as me in the coming semester. We agreed to be study buddies, which Tom was cool with. He was never the jealous type, but as the new semester rolled on, Tom started to get paranoid about my relationship with my husband and got abusive. Every time Tom got verbal abusive and even laid hands on me, my husband was my support and telling me I deserved better, to leave Tom. My husband even supported me when I aborted Tom's baby after I finally decided to leave him. I just heard from my husband's best friend's ex that apparently this was all set up by my husband and his friends. My husband was love at first sight when he saw me one time on campus and got his friends to befriend Tom. They found out what subjects I was going to do, and my husband enrolled in them. I had to see that it makes all sense, how my husband just happened to be a fan of my favorite authors, how his favorite places to go to relax was all the places I liked. His friends would tell Tom that I was 100% cheating and how he should leave me, and call him with updates about when I hanged out with my husband. My husband and his friends created my abuse, the engineered the worst and lowest time in my life all because my husband wanted to marry him. I'm not rich, I am not a model, I look like any woman on the street, you could find 10 of me on any busy street. A part of me wants to believe that this is all bullshit, she's just mad and trying to break up my marriage, but at the same time, it all fits. How Tom changed, how my husband knew so much about all the things I loved like he was made for me. What if this is real, my husband who comforted me through my abortion, abuse, that I'm so happy with right now was the cause of everything. How do I live now? I want to throw up and die, I don't know how I'm going to live through this. What if I ask him and it's true? My 12-year-old confessed she was assaulted by her dad. My youngest daughter, 12, confessed something to me on Tuesday, and I am beside myself with anger and disgust. I need to vent it out somewhere that can't immediately be tracked back to me. Backstory: my ex-husband is a lying, abusive narcissist, diagnosed through the VA. A few years ago, my ex, with the help of a well-paid lawyer, was able to railroad me into losing almost all custody of my daughter. They went for the throat, using his numerous unsubstantiated/dismissed reports to CPS against me, and even going so far as to directly state that they believed I was lying under oath about being abused as a child. It was a shit show. My child had been asking me for months to get her out of her dad's house, so she doesn't have to live there anymore, and I had been trying to pull whatever resources I could together to make it happen. In March, he was arrested for disorderly conduct per DV for driving erratically with children in the car, our daughter, and his 2 nieces. He was weaving all over the road while screaming obscenities at the top of his lungs at the children. My daughter recorded him and posted it to Snapchat, as I had advised her to do if he ever acted crazy, and when he saw she had recorded him, he broke her phone and threw it out the window. She was immediately turned over to me, and he was ordered to have no contact with her until further notice. There was a lot of back and forth with the prosecutor over whether to drop the charges or not. The moms of the girls involved were me, his sister, and his other ex-wife. We all leaned into the prosecutor to continue the charges because he had repeatedly victimized all of us, and we finally wanted some justice and for him to be held accountable for his behavior. During one of these conferences, his sister made it known that as a teen, her brother had sexually assaulted her. In passing, a few weeks after we had gotten married, his mother told me that an old high school girlfriend had accused him of raping her, but she later said that she made it up, because Ahe was angry. It is no secret that he sexually violated me multiple times at the end of our marriage. One of these times, I became pregnant, but she was stillborn at 36 weeks. I have brought up the fact that he had assaulted me multiple times, in multiple different venues, CPS, court mediators, counselors, prosecutors, and all of them basically put up their hands and said that they couldn't do anything. His now ex-wife has since told me that her daughter with him was also conceived through an assault and that he assaulted her throughout the marriage, but I've not pushed her to elaborate. After our divorce, I heard that 2 other women had also accused him, but it never went anywhere. So all told, that is 6 women that have accused him of rape. On Tuesday, my daughter told me that while she was living with her dad, he had repeatedly sexually assaulted her. The earliest that she can remember is 5 years old, and she says that it was happening up until she was made to come live with me in March. I asked her some very pointed questions, and what she told me was enough for me to call the police. I immediately felt rage. I had to go into the other room and tell my fiancé to take all the keys to the vehicles in our home and put them away from me until I could calm down, because my instinctive reaction was to drive out there and put him down like the fucking animal he is. But I held it together and called the cops. They sent out an officer who put us in contact with a detective. The next few weeks are going to be a nightmare, but at least now we might get some justice. I cried at the gym today. I 19M started going to the gym when I was about 15 and I really enjoyed it. I got super fit and loved to work out. But at 17 I got diagnosed with leukemia and had to stop going for a while. I lost my hair, tons of muscle and my confidence completely plummeted. I'm now 19 and almost done with my treatment. About 5 months ago I decided I was well enough to get back in the gym, so I did. After about a month of being at the gym again I met some super cool guys who kind of took me under their wing. I'll call them J, B and R their first initials. They give me tips, helped with my form and are constantly trying to help me get better. Not only did these guys help me physically, they helped me mentally. They encouraged me to seek therapy for some issues I have dealt with in the past and are always checking in on me. We've all become so close. They're some of my best friends. Now to today. We were all at the gym just doing our usual leg day when a guy I've never met shows up. I'll call him M. Turns out Jay knew this guy from high school and they began chatting. Jay then invited this guy to come work out with us. I didn't pay much attention to the guy cause I was just focusing on my workout, but I chatted with him for a bit and he seemed like a nice dude. Everyone finished their workout before I did, so they all went back to the locker room to grab their stuff. I was almost done, so I told them I'd be a minute and then we could leave. Me, Jay, B and R all drove together BTW. So as I'm heading into the locker room I hear them talking. At first all I heard was M. He was saying stuff about my weight and how skinny I was. Then he was going on about my hair and how I look like a sick kid from the St. Jude commercials. I was really shocked and hurt. I could literally feel any bit of confidence I had built back up being ripped down, but what happened next is what made me cry. Once M stopped talking, J, B and R completely went off on him. I've never had someone stand up for me the way they did. M was completely taken aback and just stormed off. I'm even tearing up right now just writing this. I love those guys so much. It feels amazing to know there's people who have my back and truly care about me. My husband suggested polyamory a few years ago and I love it. We're 5 years into our marriage with 3-year-old twin girls. After the girls were born he pushed for a polygamous relationship and at first I was against it. He kept pushing and I finally said yes. At first when he would be out with someone else I would cry. I debated divorce for a while. After I cried and processed everything, I realized how over him I was. I also realized that leaving him would put me in an awful position and the girls would have to live their whole lives moving houses every other weeks. Then while I was deciding what to do I realized the perks. He works full-time, and I do part-time teaching a few yoga classes in the morning. I get great insurance through his work, a great place to live, and barely pay any bills. He worked from home most of the days but I convinced him slowly into going into the office after I get home from my morning yoga classes, around 9 a.m. I then pushed him to go out on more dates and I would do whatever I wanted with it wins. We go out on play dates with my mom friends. We see movies, go to parks and do anything we want. He's almost always gone at this point on multiple dates with multiple women. I get to pick what I want to watch every night after the girls go to bed. I rarely have to clean up after him because he's gone all the time. I basically get all my bills paid for. I get a free place to live. If I want a night off I just tell my husband I have a date and he takes care of the girls or takes them to his parents' place. I typically don't have a date, I just go shopping, eat at a place by myself, read a book at Starbucks. I'll even do girls' nights and get us hotel rooms so none of us have to Uber home. I've gone on a couple dates but honestly, I don't really care to date. Our relationship is basically over but I enjoy the perks of it now. My husband almost ended me last night. Yes, it is that bad, but before you start calling for his head please listen. My husband is an Iraq War veteran. Spent almost 750 days there. This was way before I met him. When he came back and was finally discharged he suffered from severe PTSD/night terrors where he'd wake up screaming. Years of therapy and getting a service dog helped him out tremendously and the night terrors and PTSD blackouts became less and less. We started dating towards the end of his treatment with the doctor so I never really saw him at his worst. When we first slept together he warned me that it could potentially happen and the best thing for me to do is to not touch him when it's happening. To let it write itself out. Well, it did not happen for the first I'd say 18 months of us dating, until one night while we were visiting my sister and brother-in-law it happened. I did what he said and backed away from him and waiting for him to come back down to earth. It lasted maybe a minute or two I'm not sure, but watching him suffer like that was heartbreaking to see. It happened again a few months later and this time it was worse. It lasted maybe a whole 10 minutes. It felt like hours but it did eventually end. It has been almost 5 years since it has happened again, until last night. Last night I was awoken by him tossing and turning and mumbling military talk. I went over and started to talk to him in a soft voice to try and help him get through it. Then I made the mistake. I touched him to try and wake him up out of it. It had been so long I had forgotten what he had told me. He shot up and the next thing I knew he had his hands around my throat and he was squeezing as hard he could. I was truly terrified. I could not breathe and it felt like my head was gonna explode. I think it lasted maybe 30 to 45 seconds before he came around and realized what was going on and stopped, but my God, was that the scariest moment of my life. I truly thought I was going to die because moments before he stopped I was starting to lose consciousness and everything was going white. He immediately apologized and hugged me and helped me catch my breath. This was around 5 a.m. so we really didn't get a chance to go to sleep, we were both so shaken up. He brought me to urgent care this morning to have me looked at. My neck looks like someone tried to hang me, I have burst blood vessels in my eyes and I have a terrible headache. I am wearing a turtleneck to hide the marks but there is nothing I can do about the eyes. I know he didn't mean it and he has apologized profusely but I am scared of him now. I spoke to his mother and she told me that he did this once to his father a while ago but his father being a man was able to kinda subdue him. I had no chance. He's 6'5" plus 230 pounds of muscle. I'm afraid to tell people because I don't want them to judge him or get angry with him, but at the same time I want to talk about it because it was truly scary. I've scheduled an appointment with my sister's therapist which I use from time to time, but I'm still in so much shock. I'm not going to lie, there is a small part of me who is angry at him for doing this. Am I a bad person for feeling angry at my loving husband, a man who has not once raised his voice at me, never mind lay his hands on me in the 8 years we've known each other? I know it wasn't his fault and I myself did touch him when he told me not to, but I am feeling resentful towards him and it makes me sad. I'm sharing this maybe just to vent and to see if anyone else has experienced this.